You know, when it comes to getting help, a one-size-fits-all approach, well, it just doesn't work, especially for certain groups in our society who face really specific challenges. Today, we're going to dive into what it means to counsel these special populations and why understanding their unique needs is so important. All right, let's get into it.
Okay, before we really jump in, I want you to do something for me. Just for a second, think about an older person in your neighborhood, maybe someone you see every day. What are the first things that pop into your head? Are you thinking about them as an individual, or are you thinking about the general idea of what it means to be old? Just hold that thought. It's going to be really important as we go on.
All right, so first things first, let's tackle the big question. What exactly are we talking about when we say special populations?
I know, the term special population can sound a little clinical, right? But what it really boils down to is human experience. It's basically any group of people who have something in common, socially, psychologically, you name it. And, this is the key part, they've run into barriers getting the help they need because of their unique vulnerabilities. It's not about them being strange or different in a bad way. Not at all. It just means their situation calls for a more tailored, specific kind of support. And the whole point of counseling for them is to help knock down those specific barriers.
And you might be surprised by just how broad this concept is. I mean, we're talking about groups defined by age, right, like kids and the elderly, or by a specific condition, like pregnant women or folks with disabilities. And get this, it even includes people based on their job, like police officers and military personnel. Heck, even the gifted and talented are considered a special population, because they face their own set of unique pressures. So you see, it's not just one type of thing. To really get a feel for this, let's zoom in and look at a few examples up close.
Okay, first up, let's spotlight a group defined by their job. We're going to look at the incredible and unique stress that police and military members are under. I mean, let's be real. There's just no debating this one. Policing is an incredibly demanding job. It's known all over the world as one of the most stressful occupations you can have. And it's exactly that constant, complicated, high-level stress that makes specialized counseling not just, a nice thing to have, but an absolute necessity.
So check this out. What's so fascinating is where all that stress comes from. You'd think it's just the obvious stuff, right? The danger of the job, witnessing terrible things, and yeah, that's a huge part of it. But look closer. Stress also comes from inside their own organization. We're talking mountains of paperwork, rigid policies. Then you've got pressure from the justice system itself, and from the public, dealing with bad press. It's like they're fighting a battle on 4 different fronts at the same time.
And living in that kind of pressure cooker, well, it leads to some incredibly traumatic experiences. I mean, can you even imagine being violently attacked, having to take someone's life to do your job, showing up to a fatal car crash? Just think about the weight of that. It's a psychological burden that just builds and builds and builds over a whole career. That's why specialized support isn't just helpful, it's essential for their survival.
Okay, let's shift gears now. We're going to move to the other end of the spectrum and put the spotlight on the elderly.
So here's a number for you, 15%. That's the percentage of adults over 60 who have a mental health condition. But here's the part that really hits hard. This group also has the highest suicide rate of any age group. This is not a small problem. It's a major public health issue that honestly is way too often swept under the rug.
And this is so crucial. We have to understand the difference between what's just a normal part of aging and what's a serious health problem. So yeah, on one side you have things like a bit of memory decline, taking a little longer to find the right word. That's pretty typical. But on the other side, you've got serious, treatable illnesses like Alzheimer's or deep depression. One of the biggest challenges in counseling is making sure we don't just write these off as someone just getting old.
This really brings us back to that question I asked at the very beginning, right? We have this myth in our heads that all older adults are frail and lonely, but the reality, it's completely different. So many live active, independent lives. Great counseling has to start by tearing down those stereotypes and actually seeing the person sitting in front of you.
All right, for our last spotlight, we're going to look at a group that's not defined by their age or their job, but by what they've been through. We're talking about people who have experienced psychological trauma.
So what is trauma, really? Well, it's the emotional fallout from a terrible event. Think about a car crash or an assault or a natural disaster. It's that feeling of being completely overwhelmed and helpless, where the event is so stressful that it basically shatters your sense of safety in the world.
And it's that shattering that requires such careful, specialized help to piece back together. And trauma isn't just one thing. There are different kinds. You've got acute trauma, which comes from a single, one-time event. Then there's chronic trauma. That's from repeated, long-term stress, like you'd see in domestic violence. And then there's complex trauma, which is when someone has been through multiple different kinds of traumatic events. Knowing which type you're dealing with is absolutely critical to giving someone the support they actually need.
Okay, so we've looked at a few specific groups. Now, let's zoom back out. What are the core ideas, the guiding principles that counselors use when they're working with any of these populations?
Well, the starting point for any good counseling is always assessment. And it's not just about diagnosing a problem. Think of it more like drawing a map. You're gathering all the information you can to understand the client's challenges, sure, but also their strengths. And really importantly, you're figuring out if they're even ready for counseling. This map guides the whole journey, and it's absolutely vital when you're navigating new or difficult territory.
So how do they draw that map? It's a mix of things. On one side, you have the formal stuff, standardized tests, questionnaires. That gives you the hard data. You could call it the science of it. But that's only half the picture. You have to pair that with the informal methods, like just talking to someone in an unstructured interview. That's where you get their personal story, their unique experience. That's the art. It's only when you combine the science and the art that you get a real complete picture of the person.
And running through all of this is a strong ethical code. It's like a moral compass. You've got autonomy, which is all about letting the client be in the driver's seat of their own life. Then beneficence and non-maleficence, fancy words for do good and don't do harm. Justice means treating everybody fairly, no matter who they are. And fidelity is just about being honest and keeping your promises. This compass guides every single decision.
So, at the end of the day, what's this all about? It's about looking past the labels, getting beyond the elderly person or the cop or the trauma survivor, and seeing the actual human being in front of you. It's about crafting support that fits their life, their strengths, and their challenges, no one else's.
And really, it all boils down to one simple, powerful truth. Every single tool, every single technique, all those ethical rules, they exist for one reason and one reason only, to help the client. That's it. It's a huge responsibility for sure, but it's the absolute bedrock of what makes counseling effective and, most importantly, compassionate.